The night Jax Morales started at the Vista Royale, Los Angeles smelled like bleach and bad dreams. Hollywood Boulevard was a carcass of neon and rain, signs flickering, puddles reflecting ghosts of Marquis' long date. He parked his rusted Chevy by the alley where dumpsters sweated syrupy popcorn grease and stepped out into the drizzle. The theater rose over him like a mausoleum that had forgotten it was supposed to stay quiet. Inside, the air was thick with mildew, smoke, and something sweeter, acetone, maybe, or decay pretending to be nostalgia. Rows of faded velvet seats slouched under the cracked dome ceiling. The mural of dancing angels had peeled down to bone-white outlines. From somewhere high above, a projector hummed faintly, though no reel was supposed to be running. Jax's boots echoed toward the ticket booth where Captain Harlan Reed waited. The old man's suit looked pressed by habit, not effort. His left eye glimmered with an artificial darkness, contact lens over a scar, the color of used oil. "You're late," Reed said. "Didn't know ghosts punch time cards." Reed smirked, gestured toward the back hallway. "Clock in. Then listen close. This place eats men who skip instructions." They passed posters from decades of forgotten films, Taxi Girl 77, Night of the Gunman, The Eternal Reel, their glass-framed spiderweb. The hum grew louder as they climbed toward the projection level. At the top landing, a metal door bore one mark, 13, scratched by something sharp enough to cut steel. Reed didn't look at it. "That one stays shut. Ever. Got it?" "Yeah." "No, say it." "I don't open 13. "Good." Reed unlocked the control room beside it. Inside, reels of film stacked like tombstones. A single desk lamp flickered over a canister with no label sitting dead center. "That here before?" Jax asked. Reed frowned. "No. Don't touch it. But curiosity is the hand that always reaches." Jax brushed the rim with 2 fingers, static bit him, and the reel were alive on its own. The projector coughed light through the window slit, throwing shaky images across the far wall, grainy 35mm, gray and scarlet. On screen, the Vista Royale itself, this same corridor, this same room. A man in a uniform identical to Jax's walked down the hallway carrying a flashlight. The image trembled as if the film were breathing. Then shadows pulled behind the man, rippling, oily, and a mouth made of static opened inside it. The man screamed without sound as the darkness tore through him, shredding light and body alike. The reel crackled to black. Then white letters typed across the frame. "Rule 1, never open 13 after the reel starts." The machine slowed. Smoke leaked from its vents like sighs. Reed slammed the power off. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "You've just met the welcoming committee." The rest of the night was a manual in fear disguised as training. Reed led him through the dim service corridors where rats whispered in ducks and every bulb flickered on a different rhythm. He recited rules like a priest tired of praying. "Rule 2, if you see a security guard with torn uniform leading children toward the VHS storage room, shoot. No warning." "Rule 3, the popcorn machine sometimes turns on by itself. Don't unplug it, just walk away." "Rule 4, if the projector room lights die, sit still and start the projectionist. Keep eyes on the screen. Looking away means death." Jax tried to laugh it off. "You running a theater or an asylum?" Reed didn't answer. He adjusted his vest, and Jax caught the glint of an M1911 holstered beneath. "You think you're the first vet I hired? You last if you listen. Otherwise, this place will film you." They ended at a break room, a windowless cube smelling of chlorine and burnt coffee. A TV in the corner played static, A VHS tape labeled Staff Meeting 1984 said half ejected. Reed poured 2 shots of Jack Daniels into paper cups. To survival. Jax raised his cup, drank, felt the fire chase something colder in his chest. So what's really in 13? Something that doesn't forgive curiosity. Reed's tone was flat enough to close the subject. By 1 a.m., the patrons had gone, leaving popcorn dunes and footprints in soda. Jax made his rounds with a Mac light and the .38 Reed had tossed him, for insurance. Rain tapped the roof like impatient fingernails. Near the VHS archive, a long hallway lined with steel cabinets, he heard it, children giggling. Impossible. The last kid he'd seen left hours ago. He followed the sound, light beam slicing through dust. At the end of the hall, a figure stood under the exit sign, a security guard uniform, Vista Royale patch barely hanging on. The man's skin glistened like wax melting under heat. 4 small silhouettes clung to his legs, children holding popcorn boxes, faces pale, eyes blacked out by film grain. "Hey!" Jax shouted. No response. The guard turned slowly, half his cheek sloughing off to reveal a strip of photographic emulsion instead of flesh. Jax's throat dried. "You lost, buddy." The figure smiled. The sound that came out wasn't words, just the flutter of loose film whipping in a projector. Jax raised the gun. His finger trembled. The children tilted their heads in unison, mouths opening in silence. A thunderclap echoed, boom, and the wax guard's skull disintegrated into black mist. Captain Reed stepped from behind a column, shotgun smoking. Blood, no, tar, splattered across the VHS cases, sizzling where it hit metal. The children vanished like burnt frames. Reed lowered the gun. "Told you Rule 2 wasn't a joke." Jack stared at the bubbling remains. What the hell was that? "Not a who," Reed said. "A copy. This theater records souls the way cameras record light. Some reels never stop spinning." He ejected a spent shell, pocketed it like a keepsake. "Cleanup's yours. Get used to the smell, it's older than you." Later, alone, Jax scrubbed the floor. The black residue wouldn't wash away. It soaked deeper, forming faint shapes that looked like screaming faces. Every few minutes, the lights dimmed as though the building were breathing around him. He caught his reflection in a broken mirror, sweat, soot, cigarette dangling. For the first time since leaving the Marines, he looked afraid instead of angry. Somewhere upstairs, the projector clicked, one slow, deliberate spin of an empty reel. He froze. The air turned colder, humming low like power lines before a storm. From the intercom, a woman's voice whispered through static. "Don't look away." The lights died. Jax didn't move. The voice from the intercom was female, delicate, and wrong, like silk tearing over teeth. He aimed his flashlight upward, tracing the tangled cables that ran from the ceiling into the vent. Dust fell like ash. "Don't look away," it whispered again. Jax flicked the light off on instinct. The dark swallowed him whole. He stayed frozen, barely breathing, as the theater around him seemed to breathe back. Every old seat, every cracked tile exhaled air that had been trapped there since the 70s. When the lights flickered back on, Reed was there, standing in the hallway entrance, gun drawn. "Who told you to stop patrol?" Jax exhaled smoke and adrenaline. "Someone's in the system." A woman's voice. Reed's jaw tightened. "That's not someone. That's a recording." "Of who?" "The dead." Reed holstered his pistol, walked past Jax, and pulled the intercom panel open. Inside was a small reel-to-reel tape, spinning on its own, thin as skin. The label, Reel 13, Archive. He yanked the tape free, crushed it in his fist. The tape bled. Actual blood. Thick and black. Rule 5, he muttered. Never answer when the building calls you by name. Jax lit another cigarette, voice shaking. You're telling me that was the building? I'm telling you, Reed said. We work inside a stomach that still remembers the taste of people. At 2 a.m., rain hit harder. Jax made another sweep through the lobby, popcorn floating in sticky puddles, movie posters rippling behind cracked glass. The neon sign outside buzzed between Vista and VIST, then died completely. From the projection booth above, light flashed once, then again, like a heartbeat. He took the stairs 2 at a time. When he reached the top, the booth door was ajar. Inside, the machine that had played the curse reel now sat quiet, but the screen below flickered with a single frame frozen mid-burn. A man, face obscured by light, holding a film reel over his head like a crown. The temperature dropped. His breath came out white. Then, footsteps behind him. Slow. Deliberate. Metal creaking. Jax turned. Captain Reed stood there, shotgun relaxed. But his eyes, they weren't focused. Reed. Don't move, the captain said softly. It's testing your reflection. My what? Reed lifted his flashlight, shining it at Jax's boots. On the floor, 2 shadows. One was his. The other stood half a second behind. Jax blinked. The second shadow raised its hand a moment late, like a projection with lag. Without warning, Reed fired. The blast shredded the floorboards beside Jax. Smoke, dust, splinters. The second shadow evaporated. Jax slammed Reed against the wall. What the hell was that? Reed didn't resist. He just said, you ever splice a film wrong, Morales? You get double exposure. 2 frames where one should be. That's what happens when this place remembers you too well, it starts making a copy. He brushed himself off, loading another shell. Keep your light on you. If your shadow ever moves slower than you, shoot it. They walked together down the main aisle of the auditorium. Rows of empty seats, each one holding a small pile of ash where a patron might have been. Reed stopped halfway down, staring at the massive curtain that hid the screen. You know what a projectionist really does? He asked. Runs the movie. Wrong. He decides what's real for 90 minutes. He chooses the angle, the color, the sound. A good projectionist is a god in a dark room. Reed turned to face Jax. This theater had the best in 1973. His name was Miles Reed. My father. Jax frowned. So this is family business. He nodded toward the booth above them. That screened a film from Panama, military reels, confiscated from some black ops cult. He called it the Eternal Reel. 3 nights later, the crew vanished. Only thing left was light stains on the wall. And you? I was the kid hiding under the seats. I saw something crawl out of the film and smile at me. He lit a cigar. The tip flared red in the dark. Now I keep the rules, so it doesn't crawl out again. A crash echoed from below. The basement. They ran, boots hammering the stairs, the sound of static growing louder with each step. At the bottom landing, the door to the maintenance corridor swung open on its own. A wet trail, like oil, led inside. Reed raised his shotgun. Stay behind me, The corridor smelled of rot and copper. Pipes rattled as if something was crawling through them. Jax's flashlight passed over a steel hatch labeled Vent 6B. It bulged outward, metal groaning. "Rule 6, Reed said quietly. If you hear something in the vent." Yeah, Jax muttered, pulling the pin on a small satchel charge. He shoved it through the hatch crack, then flung a bag of meat, raw beef from the snack bar freezer, after it. They turned and sprinted. The explosion shook the floor, flame vomiting from the duct. Screams followed, mechanical and human and fumic all at once, like cellulite burning too slow. When the noise died, Reed checked his watch. 42 seconds. Not bad. You're adapting. Jax leaned against the wall, chest heaving. You keep a lot of meat and explosives handy for a movie theater. Reed looked at him. You think people come here for popcorn? By dawn, the rain had stopped. The city outside was grey, featureless. Jax stood on the roof, smoking, staring down at Hollywood waking up. Reed joined him, 2 coffees steaming in the cold. Below them, Room XII's door was visible through the skylight, a slab of metal with that carved numeral still glinting. You ever wonder why it's 13? Jax asked. Reed sipped his coffee. Because there's always one rule more than you think. Meaning one day, you'll find a rule that kills you. Jax stared at the horizon, where dawn tried and failed to color the sky. Somewhere behind them, deep in the rafter ducts, a faint click began again, the sound of a projector starting to turn. Cut to black. By the second week, Jax stopped asking questions. He clocked in, smoked 2 cigarettes, checked the fire exits, and repeated Reed's commandments like a prayer he didn't believe in. But the theater didn't care about belief, it only wanted obedience. Still, every night, something shifted. The film cans rearranged themselves. Posters blared ink down the walls. And the air, always the air, hummed with a low mechanical pulse, like a sleeping heart under the floorboards. At 12:07 a.m. on a Tuesday, that pulse stopped. Jax was cleaning the lobby when the sound died. It was so complete it made his ears ring. The fluorescent lights dimmed to brown, leaving only the exit signs glowing hell red. He looked toward the projection balcony. Light was leaking through the seams of the door marked 13. Reed, he called. No answer. Only a soft knocking, slow and polite, from the other side of the metal door. He climbed the stairs with the .38 drawn, pulse pounding so loud it sounded amplified by the speakers hidden in the walls. The light under the door strobed faintly, each flash synchronized with the knock. Then it stopped. Jax reached out and brushed the handle. It was cold, wet, almost breathing. When he pressed his ear to the metal, he heard a reel spinning, but in reverse. A voice hissed from behind the door, low and distorted, like film dialogue played backward. Captain. I'm home. He staggered back, slamming into the wall. Jesus Christ. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Reed. The captain's face looked carved from stone, but his gun was already drawn. How long's it been open? Reed asked. It's not open, just talking. Doors don't talk. He loaded a shell. They negotiate. They dragged a floodlight to the 5th floor, aiming it directly at the 13th door. Reed taped down the switch and tossed Jax a pair of blackout goggles. You see anything come through, you don't think. You don't blink. You shoot. What if it looks like you? Then shoot faster. Reed placed his palm against the metal, just barely, and the door trembled. A breath of wind escaped from the cracks, smelling like burnt plastic and old perfume. For a heartbeat, Jax saw movement, a shape behind the frosted porthole glass. It wasn't human. It was taller, smoother, as if poured from shadow. But when it leaned closer, its eyes reflected like projector bulbs. The light flickered. Then the door unlatched. It swung inward an inch, and every bulb in the building exploded. Darkness swallowed everything but the single beam from the floodlight. Inside the room, something stood framed in the glow, a figure in a black suit, pale as exposed film stock. It stepped forward, slow, deliberate. Its voice poured through the intercom system, bouncing off every wall. "I need to speak with the captain." Reed didn't move. The figure tilted its head, curious. "It's been 20 years since you left me in the dark." "Stay where you are," Reed barked. "I can't. The reel is running out." Then came a sound Jax would never forget, the whine of multiple projectors coming alive at once. All 12 of them, on every floor. Their light beams intersected in the lobby below, forming a pulsating lattice of dust and gold. The figure smiled. Reed fired. The blast tore through smoke, but hit nothing. The figure's body flickered like a film frame out of sync. It was there, then gone, then there again, standing inches from Reed. Its voice softened. "You promised you'd bring me back." Reed's face drained of color. "Ava." The creature smiled wider. Her lips barely moved. "You left me in the reel, Captain. You spliced me out." The floodlight exploded. Darkness rushed in like a tide. The only illumination came from the projectors below, casting reels of film that played themselves. Jax sprinted to the railing. Downstairs, the screens flickered with old footage, soldiers in Panama, a girl in a red dress laughing inside the Vista Royale, a shadow swallowing her whole. On the upper floor, Reed's voice cracked. "She's not real, she's the projectionist now." Jax looked up just in time to see her raise one hand toward the ceiling. The air warped like melted glass. Then every light died. The next few minutes unfolded like a dream cut together by a drunk editor. Jax running through corridors that bent the wrong way. The smell of film burning without flame. A woman's voice whispering his name from every speaker. "Jax Morales. You're a good soldier. I can use that." He found the emergency stairs. But the door at the bottom didn't lead to the lobby, it led back to the projection booth. He was trapped in the loop. In the corner, the cursed reel spun again, the eternal reel, embossed in flaking gold. On screen, himself, climbing the stairs he was already on. He froze. The film version of him turned, raised a gun, and fired straight at the camera. The bullet shattered a pipe beside him in real life, hissing steam. He dove behind a cabinet. "Reed," he shouted into his walkie. "She's projecting reality, she's..." Static swallowed his voice. Then, softly, over the hiss. "You can't save him. But you can replace him." He turned toward the screen. His own image stepped closer, smiling. Blood dripped from its left eye like spilled emulsion. "Not happening," Jax muttered, raising his gun. But before he could pull the trigger, a single frame blinked across the screen. Rule 9, when 13 opens, the film rewrites you. The projection stopped. The reel kept spinning. And somewhere inside the mechanical heartbeat of the building, something began writing a new script, frame by frame, pulse by pulse. Jax tore the film out of the machine. It burned his hands. He stumbled out into the hallway, smoke following him like a cloak. At the far end, Reed waited, bleeding from the temple, shotgun gone. She talked to me, he said, voice barely human. She said if we don't finish the film, it'll finish itself. Whole city's next. Jax dropped the melted reel onto the floor. Then we burned the whole damn place. Reed shook his head slowly. You can't burn what's already filmed. They stood in silence as the projectors below began to turn on again, one by one. Through the cracks in the floorboards, they saw light moving like veins of lava. Somewhere deep inside the walls, a chorus of overlapping whispers began, men, women, children, all speaking the same words in unison. Roll camera. Roll sound. Scene 13, take 1. Then the clapper snapped. Cut to black. The building shook like a living thing trying to wake up. Every van rattled, every bulb pulsed with red light. The Vista Royale was no longer a theater, it was a lung full of ghosts, and it had started breathing again. Reed and Jax moved fast through the smoke-choked hallways. Their flashlights cut through dust motes that looked like floating film scraps. Every corner glowed faintly, as if someone were developing the world in slow motion. Where are we going? Jax shouted over the low thunder of machinery below. To the basement, Reed said, voice dry, clipped. Rule 12. There's a Rule 12 now. There's always one more. They passed the concession stand. The popcorn machine was still on, humming. Only now, the kernels inside were moving, swelling and pulsing like something alive, like organs trying to breathe. Reed didn't even look. Don't touch anything that remembers heat. The stairwell to the basement was dark, but light seeped upward from below, a pulsing amber glow like a projector about the size of the sun. The deeper they went, the louder the sound of spinning reels became. The basement wasn't supposed to have projectors. But as Jax reached the final step, he froze. There were 12 of them, colossal film projectors arranged in a circle, each one wired into the concrete like arteries. Between them stood a chair. Leather straps. A mirror above. Reed limped to the control panel and pulled the cover away. Underneath, an ancient notebook lay open, pages warped from age and blood. On the cover, embossed in flaking gold, the black logbook. Jax stared. That's the thing you said didn't exist. Reed lit a cigarette from a candle made of wax that smelled like gasoline. Everything in this building exists. You just don't see it until the film wants you to. He flipped to the last page. Each line was written in ink that glimmered like oil. Rule 13, there must always be a projectionist. Reed whispered, God help us. Overhead, speakers cracked to life. A woman's voice, clear, cold, familiar. You still think God's watching this picture, Captain? Reed froze. The cigarette fell from his mouth. You left me spliced between frames, she continued. 20 years of silence. 20 years of light burning my eyes. I watched myself die one frame at a time. Jax aimed his gun at the ceiling. Show yourself. Laughter echoed, multiplied by reverb until it came from every direction. Then, from the shadows behind the projectors, she stepped out. She looked exactly how a human mind wants to remember someone, too symmetrical, too composed. Her eyes were white reels of spinning film, every blink changed what face she wore. Sometimes a child, sometimes a woman, sometimes both. Her dress shimmered black and white like it couldn't decide what era it belonged to. Ava, Reed said, barely a whisper. The creature smiled, a flicker of warmth that never reached her eyes. Don't call me that. Ava died in the reel. You pulled her out frame by frame and left what was left behind. Reed stepped forward. I tried to save you. You tried to edit me, she hissed. You cut away everything that screamed. She turned her gaze on Jax. And now you found another soldier. The film likes soldiers. They do what they're told until the end of the reel. Jax raised his gun. Lady, I don't take direction. She smiled wider. That's why the film's rewriting you. Haven't you noticed your reflection lagging again? He looked to the metal panel beside him, and saw two of himself, perfectly synced this time, except one blinked slower. He fired. The bullet tore through the doppelganger, splattering darkness instead of blood. It dissolved like smoke, but its screen lingered half a second longer before fading. The projectionist tilted her head. He's perfect, Harlan. Strong. Angry. Empty enough to inherit the real. Reed's eyes flicked to the black logbook. He read the last line again, voice trembling. There must always be a projectionist. Then it's you, she said. Or him. Like hell. Jax aimed his pistol. But Reed suddenly swung his arm, knocking the gun aside. Stand down. What? I opened the door, Morales. I started this. It ends with me. He walked to the center of the room, into the circle of the 12 machines. The film strips began threading themselves automatically, sliding through each projector's mouth, connecting end to end. Together they formed a halo of spinning light around him. Ava watched, calm, almost tender. You always loved the spotlight. Reed looked up at her. And you always loved the audience. He took the lighter from his pocket. Its flame flickered against the old gasoline wax candle he'd set near the control board. You think fire hurts me? She asked. No, Reed said. But it remembers you. He flicked the lighter. The explosion hit like thunder inside a coffin. The light from 12 projectors fused into a single blinding beam, vaporizing the air around Reed. Jax dove behind the control console as the blast roared upward through the vents and corridors. For a split second, in the heart of the inferno, Jax saw Ava's shape dissolve into cellulite smoke. Then the beam bent, folded in on itself, and imploded with a sound like film tearing in reverse. Silence. The machines stopped. The lights dimmed to gold. All that remained of Captain Reed was his pistol and a single reel still spinning, marked in handwriting that looked carved rather than written. The final cut. Jax staggered to his feet, coughing through the smoke. His ears rang. Every part of him wanted to run, but something deeper kept him there. Some instinct, maybe curiosity, maybe guilt. The reel was still turning. He picked it up. The metal was hot but bearable. As he looked through the translucent film strip, he saw flashes, Reed's face, Ava smiling as a child, himself walking out of the theater's front door. Then one more image, a frame that didn't belong. A ticket stub. His name printed on it. Admit 1, J. Morales. Projectionist. A voice behind him whispered, softer than breath. The reel never lies. He turned, but no one was there. The building went still again, as if satisfied. Outside, dawn began to paint the clouds faint pink. Jax walked out into the empty street, the reel under his arm. Behind him, the Vista Royale's neon sign flickered back to life. Now showing, The Last Projectionist. Cut to black. 2 weeks later, Los Angeles forgot how to dream. The city slept with its eyes open, screens flickering static, TVs turning on by themselves at 3 a.m., streetlights blinking in unison like a silent code. Somewhere in the valley, a projection beam cut through the morning fog even though no theater was open. Jax Morales saw it first from his motel window. A single white column of light stabbing straight into the smog above Hollywood Boulevard. He hadn't slept in 3 nights. The reel sat on the table beside the bed, sealed in a canister that hummed softly, as if something inside it was breathing. He thought about throwing it into the ocean. Instead, he lit another cigarette and watched the light pulse in time with his heartbeat. Rule 13. There must always be a projectionist. He'd read it 100 times. He was starting to believe it. The motel TV switched on by itself. Static, then the Vista Royale marquee appeared, glowing red against a storm sky. The sign read, "Tonight only, the eternal reel, 8 p.m. Jax dropped the cigarette. "No," he whispered. "You're supposed to be dead." From the TV's speaker, Reed's voice rasped through distortion. "You left the ending open, kid. Never leave the reel running." Then the screen cracked, bleeding light. Outside, every car alarm on the block went off at once. The column of light from the theater widened, spilling across rooftops like dawn turned radioactive. He grabbed the reel, shoved it into his duffel, and ran. Hollywood Boulevard looked deserted. Not empty, deserted, as if everyone had stepped off frame. Neon signs flickered through cycles of movies that never existed: The 14th Commandment, Last Exit Before the Loop, The Projectionist Returns. As Jax approached the Vista Royale, he saw film strips blowing across the street like tumbleweeds, glinting in the sodium glow. Each one showed a single frozen frame, faces of people he'd seen walking the block yesterday. He stepped on one accidentally. It crunched like glass. The theater doors were open. No doorman, no ticket booth. Just darkness beyond, humming faintly with the sound of reels turning. He drew his gun and stepped inside. The lobby looked different, clean, restored, impossibly new. Chandeliers burned gold overhead. The smell of popcorn was fresh. But the posters on the wall were wrong. They showed him. Jax Morales in bold letters. Each one a different title: The Night Watchman, Morales, a film by the Projectionist. He tore one down, and it bled where it ripped. A voice echoed from the hallway toward the main auditorium. "Welcome back, Jax. We've been editing without you." He followed it, boots sticking to the floor where film spools had melted into the tile. The main theater doors creaked open to reveal an audience, hundreds of people sitting motionless, facing the glowing screen. Except they weren't people. Their skin shimmered like exposed negatives, faintly translucent. Their mouths moved in perfect sync, whispering a loop of words that sounded like tape played backward. And on the screen, him. Jax, standing right where he was, walking into the auditorium. His reflection inside the film smiled first. Cut to scene 13. Then everything snapped to black. When the lights came back, he was on stage. A single spotlight burned overhead. The crowd of translucent figures clapped politely, the sound dry and hollow. From the wings, someone stepped out, the silhouette unmistakable even in the light's edge: Captain Reed. But his face was wrong. The eyes spun like projector reels, his body flickering between flesh and film grain. He looked at Jax, voice echoing like audio skipping between speakers. "You should have let it end, son. You're dead. So are they." He gestured toward the audience. "So are you, if you keep the reel running." The film behind them began to play again. Images of Ava, the projectionist, standing in a rain-soaked alley, whispering into a microphone that looked like a heartbeat. "The city's the screen now," Reed said. "You see it? The grid, the power lines, the billboards, projectors. LA's been rewired. The eternal reels playing itself. A faint hum grew louder, deep enough to shake the stage boards. And you're the final frame. The audience began to stand. Every head turned upward in perfect synchronization, eyes glowing white. Jax raised his gun, backing toward the edge of the stage. Tell me how to stop it. Reed smiled, half pity, half pride. You don't stop film, Morales. You end it. He stepped closer, the flicker in his face slowing until he was just human again. Every story needs a cut. He pressed something into Jax's hand, a brass lighter, dented and blackened. The same one Reed had used in the basement. Burn the reel. Even if it burns you. Then Reed's image shuddered, breaking apart into strips of light that floated upward like embers, vanishing through the ceiling. Jax was alone with the lighter, and the audience, who were now walking toward the stage in silence. He bolted through the side door into the projection hall. The machines were already spinning, feeding an endless loop of film through the walls, up into the rafters, out the roof into the night sky. The reel canister in his duffel began vibrating, rattling so violently it tore through the zipper and rolled across the floor. It stopped at his feet. The label had changed. Now it read, The Last Projectionist, Scene 13, Final Take. He flicked the lighter. The flame wavered, trembling like it recognized the moment. He hesitated only a second, then dropped it onto the reel. The fire didn't behave like fire. It didn't burn outward, it burned inward, collapsing the world around it, frame by frame. The theater screamed, 100 overlapping voices howling from inside the walls. Light swallowed everything. He woke up standing in the middle of the street. The Vista Royale was gone. Just an empty lot filled with smoking rubble, the smell of ozone and charred cellulite hanging in the air. The sun was rising. The world looked normal. Until he saw the reflection in a broken shop window, his reflection staring back, smiling half a second late. Behind its eyes, a faint flicker. The sound of a reel turning. Fade out. The morning air over Hollywood shimmered with heat, though the sun had barely cleared the horizon. Jax Morales stood at the edge of the crater that used to be the Vista Royale, hands black with soot, the lighter still in his fist. The wind carried something faint, the soft click-click-click of a projector running somewhere far away. He looked down at his shadow. It blinked. He closed his eyes, hoping for silence. Instead, a voice, not from outside, but through him. Reel's not over, Jax. He turned. No one there. Just the empty lot. But the light poles around him began to flicker in rhythm. 1, 2, 3, then off again. Like a heartbeat. That night, he checked into another motel on Sunset. Same ritual, shower, whiskey, gun under the pillow. He set the lighter on the nightstand. Its flame would not stay out, even without fuel, it pulsed faintly red. The TV turned on to snow. Then to film countdown numbers, 10, 9, 8. He pointed his gun at it. Not again. When the screen reached 0, the static melted into his own face, grainy, sweating, sitting exactly as he was now. The image version of him spoke first. Cut to morning. Scene 14. The city forgets it ever burned. Then the picture started bleeding through the walls. The wallpaper curled away, revealing strips of film underneath. Through the seams he saw streets playing themselves, cars looping the same turns, people walking backward into doors that closed before they opened. Los Angeles had become the eternal reel. He ran outside. The skyline shimmered, every billboard flashing silent movie frames. On one, Captain Reed smiled in black and white, holding up a clapboard, "Take 13. On another, Ava's face filled the screen, her eyes bright, reels spinning. "Every city needs a projectionist," her voice whispered through the wind. "The reel packed you." "No," he muttered. "You burned. Film never dies. It only changes hands." Then the streetlights exploded upward in perfect alignment, forming a beam that crowned the Hollywood hills. Within it hung something vast and coiling, a serpent of light made from millions of frames, each one showing a different face screaming. The city's new heart. Jax felt heat crawling up his spine. He looked down. Light was seeping from his pores, bleeding through the veins of his arms like molten film. The lighter in his pocket rattled, trying to ignite. He stumbled into an alley, hands shaking, body humming with power he didn't understand. Every shadow he passed moved a fraction slower, then caught up. He reached for the pistol, but his reflection in a puddle beat him to it, already raising its weapon. "Rule 13, the reflection said, voice warping into reeds. "There must always be a projectionist." The puddle flashed white. He woke standing in a movie theater. Not the Royale, another one, older, endless rows of empty seats disappearing into fog. Above him, a single projector hung suspended in air, its reel spinning slowly. The light from it poured through him, not past him. His body cast no shadow. A figure stepped out from the darkness of the aisle. Ava, her eyes calm now, no flicker, no distortion. "It had to end somehow," she said. "What is this?" "The splice point. Every film needs a cut. You burned the last reel, so the story rewound. You're what's left between frames." He laughed, broken. "So what, I'm dead?" "No. You're the edit." The reel above began to accelerate, the light turning crimson. Images whipped across the walls, the war, Reed's basement, the children of wax, every frame of violence and memory he'd lived through. Then new ones, cities dissolving into light, satellites blinking like projector bulbs, oceans rolling backward. "It's rewriting everything," Jax said. Ava nodded. "Every world has its film. Every story needs someone to turn the reel. Reed gave it to you." He stared at the glowing beam spilling from his chest. "Then maybe I can end it." He stepped toward the projector, feeling gravity twist around him. The machine trembled, protesting. The reel above screamed metal on metal. "If you step in, there's no coming back," Ava said softly. He smiled faintly. "There never was." He reached into the light. The film ripped. A sound like thunder folded in on itself, and the screen went pure white. For a moment, every screen in Los Angeles, every phone, every TV, every theater, blinked the same image, a man walking into the light, reel spinning in his eyes. Then static. Then black. Int. Empty theater, night. A single seat creaks. The projector hums alive once more. A new reel spins, title handwritten. The Last Projectionist. A figure, unseen, treads it, presses play. The beam hits the screen. The first frame, Jax Morales opens his eyes. Fade out.